So War Tycoon does have a lot of vehicles in the game, and there's just so many vehicles that you guys could use to actually enjoy yourself. And some vehicles are much more toxic than the other, and some are actually just incredibly joyful and fun to use, which are also quite fairly balanced. So in today's video, guys, I'll be doing a special video where I'll be going through the most loved vehicles in War Tycoon. I will be picking vehicles from pretty much every single area of this base. First of all, I'm gonna start with the garage, then I'm gonna go to helicopters, planes, and then we're going to be finishing off this video with the tanks. So anyway, let's just jump right into it. Last time I did the most hated vehicles, let's now do the most loved ones. Alrighty, so first off we are going to be starting with our freaking starter vehicle, which is going to be the ATV. Most people just love this because it's a very good starter vehicle, but not to add, it's very hard to hit, and overall I do find it very fun to overall control and go on the map around it. It's kind of like using the Speedy Humvee, but just being a lot harder to hit. And not to add, pretty much every single person ever used this vehicle, and I do not see anybody ever being mad about this existing, because of course it is a starter vehicle. Anyway, jump into the next one. I'm personally going to be picking the laser-free APC. Most people would say the Guardian, but I'm going to be picking the laser-free APC, because this is an incredibly OG vehicle, which is really cool. It kind of functions like an artillery in a way, but not to add, it does also have an explosive gun, and we're not really talking about how powerful these vehicles are. This is just pretty fair and balanced, but the more bigger vehicles do kind of overtake this, but this is just overall balanced and fun to use. Personally, I really like this vehicle. I do think it's very unique, and I wish it would be getting a buff at some point. It really does deserve more. Alrighty, so now jump into another set of vehicles, which I'm going to be picking this Speedy Humvee. Pretty much anybody that has ever purchased this Game Pass for 49 Robux is very satisfied with their buy. The thing that people mostly love about the Speedy Humvee is going across hills and making these like huge funny jumps without actually stopping their speed, but not to add, it's also really fun just going around the map and trying to reach the 130 miles per hour mark, which people do try to do, which I personally recommend you guys to always be using the road for this, but it's so easy to just get thrown off and just go in the water, which also makes up for some funny scenarios, but overall, it's probably a very worth it buy in terms of a Game Pass, and pretty much almost every single person has this in the game. It is just very fun to use. Alrighty, so now actually moving into the helicopters. I'm only probably going to be picking one helicopter for this, even though there could be more, but personally I feel like the Mi-24 Hind is definitely going to be on this list. I personally really like the Mi-24 Hind because when this vehicle was first released, it used to absolutely dominate the meta. Not to add, still until this day, it is quite easy to actually kill this vehicle, and it's not like top in the meta, but it does have some versatility, such as being the best vehicle in terms of being able to raid bases. And overall, its main gun, its barrage rockets, and even the lock-on missiles just make this vehicle really fun. Not to add, it also does give you a very cool vibe into actually going into wars and etc. I really like this vehicle for this reason, but I don't think there's any other helicopters which people just love as much. The Mi-24 Hind has unfortunately had a little bit of a downfall in power because it's been nerfed so many times, but in terms of how fun it is to use, I'm always going to be ranking it at the top of the helicopters. So now actually moving into the planes. Personally, it is actually very hard to pick which planes people love the most. We all know which everybody hates the most. Of course, it's the F-45. But personally, as the top plane that's the most enjoyable in this game, I'm probably going to be picking the A-10 Warthog. The A-10 Warthog has probably the coolest sound out of any plane in the game. I'd say the Stuka is probably not better. It is kind of fire, but it's still not better. I really like the overall Gatling gun of the A-10 Warthog, the sound that it makes. Not to add, it just feels like you're super powerful when you're using it, and the design that they have for this is actually incredibly spot on, and I'm really glad that Gizmotech has decided to went further and actually buff this in the recent update, because this vehicle is actually incredibly powerful now, and it can actually shred tanks just like it's supposed to. So I really respect this change, and overall the A-10 Warthog is really fun to also blast music on while you're using it. And I do have a second plane on this list, which once again, this is a very OG plane, which pretty much everybody loves. It is going to be the F-14 Tomcat. Ever since the planes were added, everybody absolutely loved the F-14, and this used to absolutely dominate the skies. But until this day, I still feel like the F-14 is pretty good. It somewhat holds up to the modern standards in terms of power, but I do find it overall very fun. I do really love the shape of it. I love the way that it actually shoots. I love the sound that it makes, and every single plane in this game has pretty much took the inspiration in terms of sound from the F-14, or maybe the developers just didn't make a custom sound for other planes, but I believe it's because they took inspiration from the F-14. Not to add, it's just a very unique plane with very rich history, which I just love that part of it. Anyway, that's all I have for you in terms of the planes. Let's actually move into the tanks. So realistically, we all know the choice I'm going to be making for the tanks. There's just so many tanks in this game, but pretty much a lot of these tanks are just incredibly annoying to play around with. I would rank the M1 Abrams here, but I'm probably going to be picking just one, which is going to be the M3 Bradley. Pretty much every single person loves the M3 Bradley. The reason why I say it's so good and it's just so fun to use, because first of all, it's an infantry assault vehicle, which by the way, it doesn't even work for infantry assault as well in this game. It's mainly really fun to actually use its wire-guided missiles, which are probably the most powerful wire-guided missiles in the game, in order to snipe people out of the sky, in order to quickly take down tanks, and overall the speed of it is really good. Its explosive gun is really fun to use for infantry as well. Overall, I don't really know what makes this vehicle so fun, it's just the feel of it that we actually get. There's nothing more I have to say about the M3 Bradley. And not to add, it cannot really be considered very OP if I'm gonna be completely honest. I'd say it's once again perfectly balanced as a vehicle. Anyway guys, that's all I have for you in today's video. Let me know in the comment section down below, in your opinion, which are the most loved vehicles in War Tycoon. Personally, I do believe it to be the OG vehicles, and I do believe that some of these vehicles could have a buff in the future, like the M3 Bradley. I really did see this vehicle on a downfall that it's not that used that much anymore, for the fact that it was nerfed in terms of the parts, because now it takes overall 2 cannons to actually spawn it. I think this nerf should be reverted. The M3 Bradley was always good as it was, and I really respect this vehicle and all these other vehicles on the list. Let me know if you listen. I'll see you guys next video. Have a great rest of your day, and thank you so much to all my channel members.